Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and I'm going to show you how to make a 3-seam quilt. My daughter and I have owned and operated a busy quilt shop in Washington State for over 20 years. We have a retreat center, an active YouTube channel, and a large pattern line featuring our creations. My 2 sons work on machines. One daughter-in-law is our videographer and the other is a long-arm quilter. We are a family that love each other, we laugh together, and every once in a while we get some work done. We have a crew that are saints for their efforts at keeping us on track. Thanks for joining us on our wild ride. So we call it a 3-seam quilt block, and it's been around for a long time, but it's also known as the 10-minute quilt. And there is a book. The book was written about 11 years ago by Suzanne McNeil. So this is her book. We do have it for sale on our website at www.fabricpatch.net. She also has a second book which has more ideas in it. And if you're not interested in the book, there is just a simple pattern. But we're going to kind of show you the technique. It is kind of cool. The technique itself has been around for a long time, but her book is really kind of cool because she shows you all sorts of other options, so that if you don't want to use 10-inch squares, you could maybe use rail fence blocks. You could do 10-inch squares up here, which is what we're going to show you, or you can do 5-inch squares. You can do all sorts of different things. The other thing that's kind of fun about it is that the reason it's called a 3D block is because once you put it in here, you're able to curve it. So it really looks like you've done curved piecing here when in fact you haven't. So we're going to come up to the table and I'm going to show you exactly what to do. I have 2 stacks of 10-inch squares. I have 36 of my 10-inch squares of Glory. You can go ahead and get a layer cake if you'd like. A layer cake is typically 42 10-inch squares. You wouldn't need all of them. And you can use pretty much any layer cake you like. Your other option is to go ahead and get a really cool fabric that you like and cut it into 10-inch squares. So I've got 36 of these here. In my other stack, I have a coordinating fabric that I'm going to use, and I have 9 10-inch squares. I'm going to do it this way to show you one specific color with this, but your other option is to do the whole thing mixed. So what we're going to do, I'll show you first how we do it, and then I'll show you a couple options. We're going to take 2 of our 10-inch squares, we're going to lay them out. We're going to take our little focus piece here, and we're just going to fold it in half. And then we're going to put our raw edges together. So raw edges are on the side and on the bottom. And then just going to put that down in there, fold this one over, and I'm going to sew this seam. All right, I sewed that seam, so then now when we open it, we have our little piece in here. Now what we're going to do is kind of swoop that over to the side and do 2 more. Whatever you think, you can kind of match things, pick a different color, whatever you'd like. And now we're going to do it again. So I'm going to take the opposite side. I've still got my wrong sides together. I'm going to lay it down, my raw edges there, flip this over, right sides together, and sew this seam. All right, so you can see I sewed that one. So when you open this up, you have this super weird looking block. So now what's going to happen is you're going to take this and open it up. And this is a little bit awkward. 40. There we go. All right. Pull this apart, fold this one over, and then I'm going to lift this up so you can see it. So then what's happening, you just want to make sure that this center part is kind of out of the way. You're going to kind of line this up right here. And for this, I would go ahead and clip it. So I'm going to put one clip in the center. And then I'm just going to come out you can see where you've still got your wrong sides together. That's going to come out, and I'm just going to put a little clip right there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And again, kind of tuck that out so that you don't catch the rest of that in there. Put a little clip there. All right. And now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew this seam. Okay, so here's my seam that I sewed. So when you open this up, what you can see is this 3D block, and that's why it's called a 3D block, because it has this sort of poofy little spot here right in the center of our 4 patch. So what you'll do is you'll just keep making all of these 4 patches this way, and a kind of a cool variation again is that you could put 5-inch squares in here, you could do some 6-inch squares. It doesn't have to be a 10-inch square, but what's really neat about it is that because this is folded right here on the bias, what's really neat is that you can bend this down, and as you bend this down, we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew right on top of that curve, and we're going to fold that over and we're going to keep going and sew that curve, stop with the needle in the down position, and then do the next one, and then just keep top stitching all the way around until we have this curved block. For most sewing, I tend to use my 1/4-inch blade foot, but not for this particular project. For this particular project, I really want to see what I'm doing. So if you're on a FOF, this is my 0A foot. If you have a different foot, it's just like your applique foot, so that it has just a wide space in here to be able to see what you're doing. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to reach in here, and you can see that you can very, very easily just lift that back. You could make it more severe, but you really don't want to pucker or pull your fabric at all. Just let it come back naturally, so you're coming to the point here and to the point here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start right up here, put my needle down, and what I'm going to do is sew right on that edge. And if you are a long armor, you might think that you can do this while you are quilting your quilt and skip this step here. But I'm a long armor, and I'm going to say that I'm not so sure I would do that, because your fingers are pretty much all up in this. And I think I control this a little bit, can control this a little bit better on my sewing machine than I would be able to on my long arm. So I'm just going to be right there on the edge, and then as I come into the point here, I'm going to put my needle in the down position, and since I'm on a FAF, I can just tap my foot, my needle goes down, and my presser foot comes up, and I'm going to reach in and fold that. See how there's a little point right there? And I've kind of overlapped that. Then I'm going to go ahead and come up to the point, stop with my needle down, turn it, and just fuss for just a second, just to kind of make sure that that's all in. So I'm coming in, come to my point here, and I'm going to begin again. And again, I'm just coming right to that edge, as close to that edge as I can. You can do a decorative stitch if you'd like to. You can do a different color thread if you'd like to. I just like the illusion of the curved piece, so I'm just doing a white thread. As I get close to the end, I'm going to tap my foot, bring my needle down, my presser foot comes up, and I'm going to do the next one just to get my curve started. Finish coming into the point. Stop with my needle in the down position so I can turn it. Fuss with it for a minute. My little curve, and begin again. Make a little curve. Make a little curve. Now we happen to know that another popular YouTube channel recently did this same quilt, but they did not do it this way. For us, this is what we think is so cool about this block, is that it gives you this faux cathedral window look. And so we almost thought about not doing it on our regular schedule, and we decided we were going to do it anyway because we wanted you to see a different method. So see how cool that's looking? Now I've got my last little corner. I'm going to fold that down, smooth that out, and make my last curve. So making the 4 patch with this little curve in it is just minutes, and you can see that making this little curve is just a few more minutes that are totally worth it. When I come into the corner, I am just going to go ahead and backstitch just to kind of make sure that it all is well. Whoops, cut my thread. And I'm going to show you this block. All right, so here is the block. Here's my little 4 patch and my 3-dimensional faux cathedral window, and you can kind of see that little top stitching down there, but again, it just gives a really cool effect and really looks like it's curved piecing. So what would happen is I would make 9 of these blocks. So if you look up at this quilt, what you'll see is that's what's happened here. And again, this is Kate Spain batik, and so that's how this one was done. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks. So that's how this one was done. But I'm going to show you a couple of other options. Okay, I'm going to show you just a couple of other what we would like to call design opportunities. And so this is the block that we just made. Again, using the 4 patch and putting it right in the center. But your other option is to take this 4 patch, another one, a 3rd one, and a 4th one, and when you put it together here, you'll end up with a little 3D seam block here. Your other option is here's a 4 patch, here's a 4 patch. When we put these two together, put it together here. So you can kind of mess with where you want this to be if you'd like to. The one thing that I'm going to mention though is that you don't want to like totally go crazy with every single intersection, because it really does come over about halfway. And so you don't necessarily want these to touch. So if you did want them at every intersection, you really do want to make sure that this is not a full 10-inch block, if that makes sense. That's kind of why it's kind of nice with her book and her second book. She gives you all kinds of ideas where if it's not just a square, it could be a rail fence block, it could be something different. You can put them in different places. So we already showed you kind of the basic one, just using 9 4 patches. What we're going to do with this one is we're going to mix up where they are. I'm going to go ahead and keep sewing on it. I'm going to show you a full picture at the end when I'm done. But before I sew them all down, I just wanted to show you one other thing. This is again the one that we sewed down together. This is what it looks like if you just leave it. If you just leave it kind of 3-dimensional, it's like this little pocket, which is kind of fun. You don't have to curve it if you don't want to. You also can sew the whole thing down, but it is kind of cool that it's a 3D block. That's part of what makes it really neat. So, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and finish making a few more blocks. We're going to show you the one at the end. We hope you liked this really fast video, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.